But speaking of Winnipeg Jets players, a guy who's currently on the roster, a guy who's been a member of the Jets, our good friend Nate Schmidt joins us on the program. Nate, good morning. Nice to see you. How are things?
I'm doing great. Good morning, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Nate, can we call you a good friend? I don't know if we know you well enough to call you a good friend. I'd like to call you a good friend.
I wouldn't have worn my favorite shirt if it wasn't for you guys.
Oh, nice. I like that Orange Crush shirt. That's solid. How's the offseason going, Nate? We're going to get into it, but how are things? You're back from Europe. We'll talk about your World Hockey Championship experience, but now that you're sort of are you fully into off-season mode after your time overseas playing for Team USA?
Yeah, I had a blast. It was fun. Unfortunately, we were struck with a few injuries over there, which made it tough. We ended up only playing with 4 defensemen, I think, the last couple of games. So that was something. But it's been great. It's first week home, and just up at the lake on a Saturday morning, enjoying the weather. I actually got back into the gym this week already, just to try and get myself ready to rock for next year. Yeah, it's been a good start to the off season. We had a little. I get married in a month, so I get a little
awesome
engagement ceremony with our family here, where my fiance and I kind of first met here at the bar at the lake here. So it was cool. Back to the roots. I did lose the engagement party game last night, so I'm a little bit sour this morning.
Well, we appreciate you waking up after the engagement party with us. Congratulations on your upcoming nuptials.
Yes, congratulations. Ask Drew any questions. He's been married for 10 years, Nate, so he's got it all figured out.
Yeah. Ask my wife how she puts up with me. I think that's the better question.
We got plenty of advice last night. Trust me, I've been writing everything down.
That's very smart, very smart. I was going to ask you mentioned you got back into the gym. How long will you be off the ice for a while still? When will you get back on the ice and sort of get back into on ice training as opposed to just sort of the quote unquote dry land training?
Yeah. It's funny to say that. I feel like every year it gets pushed a little bit. Like when I first started, I was like, gotta be on the ice first week of June. Like I have to be on there. I gotta be ready to rock. That was like my first couple of years pro, and then probably third year pro, I was like, okay, I'll wait till the 4th of July. Now I'm in like the second week of July, because I realized that the biggest thing is like your hips relax and kind of let those muscles that you use all year long get a break, right? Because skating isn't a natural movement, and so you can do a lot of things in the gym that help stabilize all the other things in your hips that you don't use during the year. And so it's been an important part for me. I'm actually going to be on the ice. Oddly enough, next week I coach a camp for a couple 15-year-old kids, for the 15s, select 15s in Minnesota. I've been doing it for 10 years, which is wild to say that already. So I'm excited. Me and Austin Pagansky will be there. So it's an exciting time giving back, and it's fun. We have a great time too. It's coaching though. I don't envy that job. You don't envy that job.
We'll talk about coach. We'll talk about coaching in a little while. Your team obviously is still in need of one, and that's obviously been a topic of the off season. Hopefully, you'll humble some of those 15-year-old kids, put those teenagers in their place for a little while.
Oh, God, they always got something, right? It's a lot of the kids are really receptive and quiet, but you get one or two that are pretty rambunctious and think that they got all figured out. I was like, man, listen, I don't have it all figured out. Trust me. So I don't know if you can already too.
Yeah, Nate, I wasn't going to be the one to ask you about a coach. We'll just wait until Chevy makes that decision. But just going back to the World Championship, and obviously we'll get back to the Jets in the offseason and everything like that. But for those who maybe aren't as familiar, because I think you'd agree in North America, when we talk about international hockey, it's all Olympics, World Juniors. When the World Cup of Hockey is going on. But for those who don't know, like, just how big is it in Europe, right? Like, I think and some of us know, because it is huge. And also, as a kind of second part of that question, why is it so important? In addition to, the obvious one is like, wearing the American flag on your jersey, and for Pierre-Luc Dubois and Adam Lowry wearing the maple leaf, and all the other, players who represent their countries. Obviously, that's a huge part of it. I think always like to represent your country. You're a proud American, right? But what else can that do? Because it seems like, you look at, PLD, like he had such a strong tournament. Isn't there that aspect of, continuing your season, because obviously the Jets didn't make the playoffs, and hoping that will help you continue that into next season with a good performance?
Yeah. I think it's to go back about talking about the World Championships over there. It's insane, by the way. It is something unlike you have to experience them, especially in Finland. So Finland had we played in Tampere. It's a brand new rink, and even when we would play Great Britain or Latvia or whoever it would be that's not Finland or Sweden, that's close by, people from Sweden would just show up and watch the game just as fans of hockey. I always thought that was super cool. I applauded their fans for doing that because I was like, obviously it wasn't the sold out barn when we played Finland, which was pretty incredible. It's such a different feel. It's early in the morning for us back in North America. You don't really realize how big it gets until you get into the medal round, and the games are crazy. It was awesome. It was a great experience. And like I said, unfortunately, I think we ran out of gas a little bit on the back end with one of those guys rampant. I think Seth Jones might have played 600 minutes or something like that. It was something absurd. I played against a guy, you don't realize how big of a stallion he is until you play with him. And so it was pretty cool. But I just think, for me, after the year was over, with a sour taste in your mouth about how it ends, you watch teams in the playoffs. Like that's only happened to me once in my career where I haven't been able to get in, and it's hard. So when they called, and I said, it sounds like something I want to do. I felt like I had my game pretty good for most parts of the year, but there were times where I didn't. And when I left the year, I felt I had more to give, and I didn't like that feeling, right? Because you feel like you have more to give with games and playoffs. And so this is a good way to remedy that, right? That I went over there. I loved the game's different, right? The where the plays are different. The ice size, the reffing, all that stuff is different. It's an adjustment period. It definitely took our guys a few games to get used to how the game is played over there. With the 2-3 guys sitting in the neutral zone, there's not really a lot of forechecks. It's just one team waiting for the other one to turn it over, and that's about it. And power plays. That's about all. That's about all it comes down to. But yeah, I had a blast over there. We had a great group, and that's what makes it fun, right? When you have a good group that's over there, we had a lot of young players that were just eager to learn, and it was fun to kind of be able to create a culture with our guys and kind of be the older. It was scary because I was the oldest guy, and I couldn't believe the guys. Some of the guys would call me dad, and I was like, stop, stop, please.
Nate Schmidt is our guest Saturday morning.
And I actually still keep in contact with some of those guys.
Nate Schmidt is our guest Saturday morning. We're live on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show talking about Nate's experience. Can you hear us, Nate? Yeah, you're good. Okay.
Yep.
There you go. Go ahead, Dave.
Nate, one of the things you and I talked about last summer was the idea of mentoring and how I remember you telling me stories about how guys, when you were, early in your career, mentored you and you just listened to them, you kind of soaked it up and they were real helpful for your career. And it seems like you're paying that forward because, when I did the Moose end of season media availabilities, one of the things that guys like Ville Heinola, Dylan Sandberg, they talked about how you specifically, you and Brendan Dillon, but you were mentioned, how you guys created that environment for them. Is that something you're consciously thinking about when you see these young guys? Because obviously there's always that competition, right? Young guys want to come up, they want to take that spot away from a vet, but at the same time, you created an environment for these guys that felt welcoming to them. And that's something when they came back down to the AHL and I talked to them, that was something that they all kind of mentioned, to me at least.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I remember, we talked about it last summer. It's an invaluable tool to your group, and you have young players. You have to have young players come in. You look how the contracts are structured nowadays with, you have to have guys that come in when they're young and be able to play and contribute to your team early. And if they don't feel comfortable in the game and they don't feel comfortable in their own, like within our team and in their own game, it's not going to help us win. And so, it's a part of the game that I think you have to see as the game within the game, right? The locker room game is an important part of the group. I think if your locker room runs things, it makes an incredibly easier job on your coaching staff, on everybody, right? And I think for me, and like Billy's a great kid, and Sammy, like I think Dylan Sammer's going to work out with me this summer. Just because it's fun to see when guys start to really come in their own. And I thought these guys both, as the year went on, like you saw Billy at the beginning of the year, and then you saw him at the end of the year, that there's a big transformation in his game. Dylan Sammer, the same thing. You see him, and I thought at the end of the year, he was a guy that had so much confidence in his game and really fit in with our group. I thought he played incredibly well down the stretch for us. And that's what you need. You need these guys to be able to come in and play for you next year, and you have to have them. And if they feel comfortable in that situation, they're going to thrive. If they come in and they're tight and they're nervous, and maybe they're not feeling that type of community, then it makes it for such a harder situation. And I just remember that when I was a player, so I try as hard as I can to help bridge that gap.
Nate Schmidt is our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, talking about his off-season plans, talking about his experience with the World Hockey Championships. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, but that was your first time wearing the Team USA logo. What did that mean to you, as a player? You've obviously, you've come up sort of the hard way, undrafted. You've had to really fight every step of the way to become an NHL regular. What did it mean to put on that Team USA logo to you?
Yeah, the first time kind of gave me some goosebumps. I still kind of get it a little bit, right? It's playing the NHL is something. It's such a special accomplishment and a time in your life to be able to do that. Every time you do it, it's awesome. But putting on your country's flag and go up, and like, it was fun. When the first game we played against Canada, I'm looking across at Doobie and Laos. I'm like, this is kind of weird. But
give him an extra little poke, maybe a little cross check.
No, don't. Hey, when it comes to Laos, don't poke the bear. I told him, I was like, hey man, if you don't run me tonight, I'd be really happy with that. I'll make sure to get you a couple of Shortside hats, whatever you need, whatever you can do. He looks at me, he just rolls his eyes like, come on, man. And sure enough, first forecheck, I see him barreling down. He's yelling at me for like, Schmitty, move it. That's the fun in it. But it was a special thing to be a part of. I mean, anyone that has the chance, I think you should do it. It's a long tournament, 7 preliminary games, right? It's long, but we had a lot of fun on our team. We did a lot of things together. I think, like I said, we had almost like a college atmosphere because how we were, so we kind of treated it as a college team. We all just kind of together everywhere, So what made it really.
Nate, you mentioned Shortside there, and obviously you're rocking the hat, and you were negotiating deals as you were over in Finland, the World Hockey Championships. I believe that was about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. USHL made the 3-year agreement, becoming the official off-ice accessory partner. For those who aren't familiar with Shortside, I was checking out the website yesterday, and I love the shirts. I was maybe hoping I could get some type of friend discount on one of those shirts. I'm just kidding, obviously. I'll pay full price, Nate. But love all.
Why not?
Love all the stuff. But obviously, I mean, your NHL career is your number one focus. But can you just talk about Shortside and how fun that's been to see that grow and get that deal with the United States Hockey League?
Yeah. I went to school for business, and I remember Dave and I were talking about this last summer. I went to school for this, and I was, for the last couple of years, looking for something. I think it's such an important part to have your mind be sharp in more than one way. And I find that with this, I get to meet so many more, people and, guys that you play with, and they have, managers and people here, there, everywhere. And it's just such a small community. Right. And I think it's been so fun to be a part of something that I can do every day. On the way up here, I was calling people. A couple of calls yesterday, just chatting people up, a couple universities and such, and a couple USHL teams just to say, hey, how's it going? And a lot of times you just sit and kind of shoot the shit, and talk hockey, the community. And that's what makes it really fun. And I think that's why I've really enjoyed doing it. We're trending. We're crawling our way out of the infancy startup stage. We have made some bigger moves this year. It's such a big. I had my first time yesterday when I had a client say, "Hey, I would love to refer you to somebody," and I was like, "Man, that means so much to me." I was like, "That's the biggest compliment you can get, right?" It's like, "Hey, I'd love for you to work with a colleague of mine. I thought you guys have done a great job with us." So I said, "Wow, it's the best compliment you can get." I'm still working on my sales pitch. I know Dave and I talked about it last year. It still needs work. Still not great, but I'm grinding. I'm trying my best to get better at it every day. But it's a nice thing that when I leave the rink to keep yourself still sharp and not just going home and sit on the couch and just kind of vegging the rest of the day, So I find it to be really fun. It's a little tough, but we meet our guys meet every week. It's fun. We chum it up for, put a couple of logs on the hot stove and get working.
Winnipeg Jets defenseman and business mogul Nate Schmidt is our guest on the Illegal Curve.
I want to see
Hockey
Nate on
Show.
Shark Tank really soon.
Man, have you ever seen the Shark Tank guys? I was talking to me. Those things are like 4 hours long. I mean, obviously they cut them down for the show.
Right.
I think that's incredible. You understand? You look at a guy, he's like beating sweat, and he's grabbing his head, and he's like, he's going like this, and the camera's not on. You know, I don't realize until you're sitting in front of these absolute business savages for 4 hours. I'd be leaking too.
You know, Nate, you spent 4 seasons essentially in whether it was North Dakota or in the USHL or University or Minnesota. So then you went to Washington and you were playing away from home. Now you're back within the vicinity of Minnesota again. Your first year in Winnipeg, not necessarily from a hockey perspective, and obviously COVID played a role. But was your family able to come up to Manitoba more? And was it nice having that closeness, that proximity to being close to home?
Yeah, it's been weird, right? I've been gone for so long that you forget what winter's like. And this winter really reminded us what winter was like.
Oh, it did.
Winter roared, Mother Nature roared her hind legs. And
it was those Colorado lows, Nate. It wasn't even our fault. It was Colorado, man.
You guys were in Florida. What are you complaining about? We were stuck here subbling.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? I was there all dang winter. But yeah, no. My family was able to come up a bunch. People were just get in the car and come on up. And come to games. That's something that's really cool. Have Allie's, my fiance's family. I get my family and brother and sister be able to come up. And I'm a big outdoorsy guy. I know when I talked about this last year, I was able to go hunting a bunch. I was able to, because I'm a big bow hunter, and and there's plenty of geese up there, so there's plenty of things for me to shoot. And I got to, and I'm always a big advocate. If you shoot something, you got to eat it. So I had plenty of goose and deer meat and stuff in the freezer. So I had a lot of fun in the outdoorsy aspect until it hit -35 for a month straight in January, February. Then I started to stay inside and hermit up a little bit. But no, it was really nice, Dave, to say my parents and family, can anyone just pop up easy peasy, just roll up 94 and a 29 right into Winnipeg.
Nate, what we're been focusing on here, what the fan base has been focusing on, of course, is the head coaching search and, the absence of a coach right now. When you've been talking to some of your teammates, when you've been chatting it up with guys, does that come up a lot? Is that something that, you focus on or you pay much attention to in the off season? Or is that something that sort of just gets done and then you deal with it whenever the new name is announced?
Yeah. I used to be a lot more like wanting to be involved and know what's happening. And you realize now it's one phone call and all of a sudden, bang, things could change, right? It's just like free agents in hockey. All of a sudden, you're talking to somebody, and then bang, someone comes out of nowhere. And all of a sudden you're like, wow. And all the reports said, hey, this guy was going to sign here. And all of a sudden he was here 30 minutes later, so it's hard to follow all the rumors, but there's a lot of teams looking for coaches. And there's a lot of head coaches, a lot of experience out there. It's going to be an interesting offseason. I find that there isn't really – every time you find, oh, this guy's going to go here, there's about 4 other teams that are now linked to him. So I had a call with my agent last week going over the World Championships and, whether I was, told him I was healthy from coming back and whatnot. And I said, oh, you got news? He's like, buddy, I got no news. I got news every day. I don't even know what's news anymore. So
fake news.
Yeah, exactly. What is news anymore? But I just try to keep it even keel because you never know. I mean, it could be anyone at this point, right?
So Nate, obviously, I'm going to have to ask the question because Drew and Dave don't have the cojones that I have. No, but I'm joking. Obviously, we don't know who is going to be the next head coach. But if I'm not mistaken, Barry Trotz was your coach for 3 years with the Washington Capitals, and it's not a secret, that the Jets would love to hire him as a head coach. So just what was it like to play under him? Because there's no better person to ask than you, right? Playing for the Capitals. Just, what's he like as a head coach? Because I think you'd agree he's one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Yeah, and he was able to take that team. If he only would have held on me for one more year, I would have been able to win a championship. But I guess, hey, it is what it is. But
blame that on you can blame that on the GM.
No, you know what? Wouldn't trade anything. I wouldn't trade it for what happened. I loved my time. Especially that first year in Vegas. But you know what? With Barry, he's very no nonsense when it comes to his structure, right? I think is something that Washington was a team that I thought needed that at the time. And when he came in and you saw how big of a transformation it did for our team, it was quite a transformation. You see, I mean, the Islanders have been a great team for the last ever since he's been there. Did they struggle this year? Yeah, but they also had the worst start, 15 games on the road, COVID. I mean, it's hard to come back from that, honestly. And then you got half your team out after this, and half your team that's still recovering, and it's hard. It's hard, especially when you start the season in a whole. So I mean, is the success and the track record speaks for itself. Barry's on ice aside, off ice stuff, he's always a big family man, right? And so he always preaches that. He says, guys, like we take off days at home, we get family time. And I think that's an important part of the reason why guys respect that, especially as veteran guys, and be around your families and such when we just spend a lot of time on the road, right? And I think it's an important part of the game, right? If you don't have, if your house is a little bit messy, it's not going to be good when you walk into the rink, right? And so I think he realizes that more than anybody. And yeah, good Manitoba boy, right?
Yeah, there you
Absolutely.
go. Exactly right.
Nate, one of the things we want to talk to you about is the on ice. I mean, the Jets didn't have success, but you had a bounce back year for personally. So what was it like for you playing in Winnipeg on the ice and getting to know this group?
Yeah. I think I was happy with my year for the most part. Every time you walk away from the year, I always take a week to reflect back. Now it's been this last week, right? Because I was playing the last month, and there are times of the year I wish, you wish you were better, right? But there are times of the year I felt as a team we could have been better as a group. Like sometimes guys will go through a really high time and maybe a low time, and I felt like as a group we would do that. And I think we need to do a better job of making sure that is maybe, if one guy or two guys go down, we don't kind of all go down with them and come back up. It's great when you're coming back up together, but as they over 82 games, right, you have to make sure that stays, stays up in that range. But I thought that the group was great. I think that we have some soul searching to do about how good we are. We're a good team. It was sad not seeing our team in the playoffs, and that's the God's honest truth. You got teams that are sitting there not playing, being like, we weren't that good this year. Yeah, we were pretty young, or this and that. And I don't think that we can sit back and say that. And I believe that our guys have to say after a long off season, I would be under the impression, and I have a little bit of a little fire brewing after what happened, watching these teams go. And I thought as the West has turned out, I thought the West was a little bit more of a wild card than people thought it was, because I think you had Colorado. I think two of the better teams were playing each other in the first round in LA in St. Louis and Minnesota. I thought there was opportunity to be had there, and it's hard to say what would happen if we got in, but I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. And I think our guys have to be okay with understanding that cannot be. We have to have a standard, and I think that's something that this summer is going to brew a lot in guys as they're working towards a long summer when August hits and they're realizing, man, I've been sitting here for 2-3 months already.
Last question for you, Nate, sort of on that topic, that bitterness. Is that the fuel that drives you and should drive the rest of your teammates? Guys that you've spoken to this offseason, is that not even just lingering, but is that more your motivation and you're channeling that into this coming season? Because it looks like the roster is there's obviously going to be some movement, but a lot of the roster, a lot of the core looks like it very well could be the same next year. So is that sort of the fuel that drives you to have a better 22-23 season?
If you look at our team, and when I sit in the room, you look at our group, you have the pieces, right? Now it comes to us as men to understand that we need to be better with each other. We need to be better about righting ships when they're wrong. And that's a maturity factor of a group. And I think that is going to be the most important thing as we move forward. And this summer is one of those things. And like I said, when you're sitting here and you turn the TV on, you're watching teams play, obviously only one team can be there at the end, right? Or two teams can be in there playing for the final at the end, and one team gets to hoist. But you got to give yourself a chance. And it's about being good all year round and just being consistent over the year. I think that's, like I said before, that was our biggest issue this year was we would play amazing, play great team, play really good teams and win games and then play not so good teams. I mean, you look at how many overtime points that we let slip through and how many, teams that were below us that they can't win every night. You're going to lose to teams, but there are good losses and bad losses, I guess, if you look at the standings. You play a good team, sometimes the way it rolls out, that's just the way it is. But I think that's the biggest thing about us moving forward for this summer is saying, hey, guys, this is going to have to come within our group. It has to come from your group. I think the room runs how the team is the engine that makes things go.
Nate Schmidt is a defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets. Nate, appreciate your time. Congratulations again on your upcoming nuptials. Thanks for joining us the morning after your engagement party. We'll let you get back to your guests for cleaning up or whatever's on your plate for the rest of the week.
I just got done making breakfast, so I'm good. I don't have to clean up.
Okay,
Nice.
I mean, we can be there in 6 hours. Whatever leftovers you need, we'll be there.
Hey, eggs, pancakes, venison brats, the whole 9 yards. Hey, I gotta use up all that.
I was gonna say, how do we get hooked up with some deer jerky, Nate?
Well, you gotta put me on a big one. That's all. If you got any land, anybody you see big old mossy horns walking around, let me know.
there was one in my front yard last night when I was coming home from the football game, but I don't think that's the one you wanted.
Listen to this. The last thing before I was leaving the hunting land one day and I'm driving home and I'm driving into, let's say, Cody Eakin's place. I was driving into his neighborhood and a big 8-pointer, a 4x4 just stares me in the face like this as I'm turning into and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was just sitting outside in the freezing cold for 3 hours and here you are just standing in my driveway. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's hunting for you.
That's the deer getting their revenge on you, I think.
Yeah, that's just staring me down being like,
yeah. That's somebody trash talking you on the ice. That's the equivalent of that.
Seriously. All right,
Nate,
gents.
Thank you for this.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it, guys.
Nate.
Have a great day.
See ya. Take care. Nate Schmidt joining us here on the program.
What a beauty.
What a beauty indeed. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the interview, talk about our time with Nate Schmidt. He's always, like you said, Ezzy, what a beauty. Don't go anywhere. We're live Saturday morning. It's the Illegal Curve Hockey.